Hello, it's time for a Warframe video. So, the helmet system. I am probably not going to be using it. Yeah. So, I like the idea of the system. I think it's cool. My original plan was to get every single Warframe in the entire game, and to then slowly subsume them over time, and then start messing around with the combinations, and then be done with it. But, I can't do that. Currently, right now, how the system is set up is every time you subsume a Warframe, you have to put in resources, and then every time you want to infuse abilities, you have to put in resources. The problem is, you have a limited amount of slots early on, which means that you're probably better off just putting in good abilities, and then you want to start putting in, like, the bad abilities, but the resource costs involved are they're insane. Like, they're actually insane. As you can see, I've already put one Warframe in, which was Xcal, but when it comes to feeding the helmet, the resource costs they're insane. So every time you infuse ability or you like subsume a Warframe, this goes down and you have to refeed the helmet, and it has an appetite system. Alright, this wouldn't be too bad if the costs were just, like, bonkers. Certain costs on, like, the list in general, and this is coming from a player that has a decent amount of resources, are just, they're nuts. They are completely nuts. I'll give you a good example. Kratic. Kratic cost 3,000 Kratic to push this up, like, 25 to 50%. So you have to put more resources in to get this to go up, and if you keep putting the same resource in, you get less of a percentage increase. I have 16,000 Kratic, and they want me to put 3,000 in. I can only do this so many times before I have to spend hours and hours farming more Kratic. And when you consider that there's a lot of resources which are in a similar spot to this, why would I even bother putting Kratic in here? It's insane! And then when you consider the helmet has an appetite system, so sometimes he might be like, I want Kratic. Oh, sometimes I want the other thing. The costs are insane. This is not a resource sink. This is a black hole. And I do not understand why the hell DE thought this is acceptable. There are items in here which are just ludicrous in terms of resource costs. In fact, I'm just going to straight out say, the costs in general for some of these are just, they're bonkers. They are actually bonkers. Like, they are actually bonkers. When you have a look at the resources I have a decent amount of resources. I don't even have enough for some of these to sacrifice. And when you consider that I have to sacrifice them over and over again, on top of the Warframe that I've already built, on top of the abilities that I've already now got, and then add, the costs just get ludicrous. And this is coming from somebody that has a decent amount. There are people out there that have more than me, and they're even saying, yo dude, like, this is just nuts. This is actually just insane. The resource cost on this has to come down, and I'm sorry, if it doesn't, I'm just gonna say, you know what, I'm just gonna put the best abilities in. In fact, I might not even do that, because quite frankly, this is a joke. And this is a very bad joke, and I don't want anything to do with it. I'm fine not having this system. I'm fine not interacting with it. I'm fine just, like, giving it Xcal, and then going, you know what, that's it. But right now, this system basically is forcing you to go, you're putting the best abilities in first, because the cost is so stupidly high. And it is honestly bonkers. Take, for example, titanium. This requires 20,000 titanium. I have 100,000 of this. And you get, like, if you consider titanium and Kratic, you get something like 2,000 titanium per mission. And it needs 20,000 if the helmet wants to eat it. If it doesn't want to eat it, it requires more. That's insane! It is honestly insane. And to make matters worse, they've then changed it so this was available at MR8. There's a lot of MR8 players that struggle to get enough resources to build a Warframe. And you're telling me you want them involved in this system? What the hell, DE? Like, what the actual hell? Like, there are veteran players, the years worth of resources, which are basically screaming at you saying, this is too much for even us. This is not a long-term project or a resource thing. This is a resource black hole. And then when I read on, like, Twitter, one of your game designers, I assume, I don't know what he does, has basically said there are no plans for the resource changes for this at all. I'm like, what the hell? Because right now you're basically saying to people, if you want to do this, you have to use the stuff that's really good and screw all the fun stuff. Do not experiment at all. Use all, like, the fun stuff last. Basically, use most of your resources on the stuff that's good. Because the resource cost on this is just nuts. You have to feed him when you assume a Warframe. You have to feed him when you want to infuse abilities into your Warframe. You have to then feed him the next day. You have to then feed him multiple different resources in order to get him, like, up to 100%. It is honestly bonkers. There's nothing else for me to really say. It is ridiculous. Now, you get a decent amount of XP for, like, subsuming a Warframe, but the resource costs involved are just... I don't know what to say. Like, they're just insane for some of them. And even in general, the resource costs are just... they're huge. Like, they are absolutely huge. Now, some players have said, well, this is fine. But for the vast majority of players that I've seen that have, like, any sort of sense at all, they're going, this is not fine. And this is not fine at all. And in fact, let's show you what happens when I sassoon Bino and show you the cost. Because I feel like seeing is believing here. But first, let's pick up the rest of it. And you can see that I've started to, like, pick up different Warframes to sassoon. But right now, I'm looking at this going, I'm not going to put any of these in that are bad. And I don't even have all of them. I was going to farm all of them, but right now, quite frankly, I don't want to do that. Because the costs are just ludicrous. I don't want to have to spend hours and hours. Alright, farming thousands and thousands of resource to then have to do it again and 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 again. Every single time I want to put a Warframe in. I don't want to do that. I have other things I want to do. I don't want to have to buy a resource booster to do that. Because right now, even if you have a resource booster, the costs are... they're insane. Yeah. Also, you have sassoon slots available, which means that basically, like, putting Exco in was probably a bad idea. Yeah. And the only way of increasing that is to basically level up, which I have to get to level 4. So, yeah. That's going to be fun. Yeah, look, see. Required. Like, this is just insanity. And consider how long this is going to take. Like, it's 23 hours per Warframe. That's, yeah. And it didn't even give me full amount of XP to level up. But yeah, right now, like... I, quite frankly, do not want to interact with the system anymore outside of putting in, like, the best abilities I can think of. because this system is just, it's bonkers. It's the resource costs involved are crazy. And crazy. In fact, let's show you how much. That's 10,000. Do I need to put that in? Yeah. You see, this goes down. Right. So let's see how much we need to put in. So, this oxides. Okay, so 20,000. That's 10,000. That's 15,000. That's 25. That's now full. So now we need to go to biotics. This requires 8. That's a decent amount. This requires 8 too. See, I don't even have all of this. This is just... It's crazy. Like, this is just crazy. I'm gonna run out of resources. And I don't have that much. Which is... Well, apparently I don't have that much. And I thought I had a decent amount. This is basically, like, how many resources do you have? And as it turns out, I don't have that many. There are YouTubers that are currently complaining about this that have way more than me. This requires 1,000! Look! This requires, like, 125! And these things are like gold dust! This is just... Look! 10,000! Why? I don't... It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the resource costs for some of these are just stupid. Oh, yeah. And this is a hungry boy. And you have to do this every single time you want us to stream a Warframe. These resource costs are just... They're crazy. This is not a cheap amount of resources. At all. Like, this is not cheap. And this takes a while to do. And you have to do it every single time you want to stream a Warframe? I'm sorry. Like, I am legitimately sorry, but no. Like, no. These costs are too high for me. Like, imagine a player that doesn't have these resources. In fact, imagine a player, like, gets unlucky and has to feed him more. Like, it's just... I don't know. Like, the resource cost for this has to come down, and I cannot see a justification for keeping it as high. If people that have more playtime than me, and have been playing for, like, longer, and they have permanent resource boosters on, are complaining about this, I don't know what to say. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time. The helmet system is a cool system. It's just let down by poor balancing right now, and they honestly need to address this. I do not care what they say. This needs to change. I get it. It's a cool, powerful system, but this needs to change. Alright, thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye.